Hi, 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 my little droogies.
No.
I've got some of the Milk Plus. Should help with the old Kubrick ranking video today.
No mouth.
So yeah, that's what we got in store. Uh, I'm back here with Mr. Nick Lee and Mr. Austin Yogi, and today we're going to be doing a fun one. It's going to be ranking Stanley Kubrick's filmography. Um, he has a pretty easy filmography to get through. He only has 13 films. And Nick and I were kind of talking about this before, but every single one of his films, at least when he starts going like Paths of Glory and on, every single one of them has such a strong individual identity that they all feel really important to the genre that they belong to, yet also really detached and icy. Um, so it's really interesting. It's like Kubrick pretty much makes the best genre film in any set genre, but it's also so unlike a genre movie. It's just that's the genius of Kubrick, really. And so it's going to be interesting looking through his filmography because every film is kind of really different, but still has his directorial stamp on every single one of them. Uh, we're going to do a top 10. Each of us going to go down the line, and we could do all 13, but all three of us agreed that the bottom three films, at least for us, were his first three films. So, yeah, I mean, The Killing is a really good film. It's his third movie, but at least for me, Nick and Austin, it just doesn't crack into the top 10. So we're going to start. I'll start my number 10. It's probably going to start this off with more of a controversial take, but my number 10 is Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, mine was so close to being Full Metal Jacket.
Really? For
Yeah,
10?
yeah, it was close. I have it at 9, but yeah,
Okay.
it could be easily a 10. I dearly agree with that. You want
Okay,
me to
yeah,
say what my 10 is?
I'm glad I'm not alone here then.
Yeah.
For me, Full Metal Jacket's 10, only because it's nothing we haven't seen before from Kubrick. He does it in Paths of Glory, and he does it way better because Paths of Glory is just so viscerally upsetting and depressing, and there's not an ounce of humor, and that's why it hits really hard. But also on the other side of the spectrum, he does the war type of commentary again in Doctor Strangelove, where it's kind of the complete opposite, where it's all humor, but it's all very dark, very well written satire. And
Hmm.
Full Metal Jacket is kind of like the in between, where it tries to kind of do both, and it just feels really self indulgent. It feels like Kubrick didn't really need to make this movie again, and it kind of feels a little stale from him. And it's too heavy handed with the metaphorical representation of Vietnam. And for me, it just doesn't really work. So,
I agree. I thought it fell flat compared to his other ones, his other films, but I don't know.
yeah,
Austin,
it, it kind of feels like Kubrick parody to me at times.
yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know. What do you think about that, Austin? Do you think it deserves to be that low?
yeah, Full Metal Jacket at 10. What are your thoughts on that?
I know it's hard because Full Metal Jacket is a fantastic movie. Like it's a good movie. And it's hard to put any of these so low, but I wouldn't put it as my bottom. I like it a little bit more than put it as the bottom rank, but I wouldn't. It's not in my top five or anything. So
Okay. Yeah, that's my number 10 is Full Metal Jacket. So going to Nick.
Yeah, so my number 10 was The Shining. I
Wow.
I did not like it. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie. Dude, see, I told you, controversial, terrible opinions coming out of my mouth. Um,
Okay. Well, let's hear
no,
it.
I think it's just me being not a big fan of like horror or thrillers. And it's just hard for me to just get over that personal bias of just like or unbiased. I don't know, whatever. I just don't like it. I don't like the thrills. I don't like horror movies, and like it's iconic. Don't get me wrong. It's I mean all of his movies are somewhat iconic, but yeah. Other than that, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Just like other than that, I just didn't. I didn't like it. It didn't hit as much as the other ones did for me, but.
Okay.
It also has been a while. Probably should have given it a rewatch, but no, I feel like I still have the same opinion. Then again, it could have been a 9. It could have been at number 8 too. That's the tough part with this is like, but it definitely is not in my top 5.
Well, yeah, that's another thing that I guess it's worth mentioning. Like all these films are kind of ranked on a Kubrick curve, obviously,
Yeah.
because like even me having Full Metal Jacket at 10, I still think it's, top 10, top 15% of all movies. It is definitely a good movie. I think all of our top 10s, we're all going to argue that they are the top of all movies made. But when you're ranking them against other Kubrick movies, they're all on a curve now.
Yeah. I don't explain why am I wrong? Why am I wrong?
Um,
Why is that a bad opinion?
I'll probably get into defending why I really like The Shining when we get to it on my ranking. But I at 10, like I guess I could get it because it is more genre specific than his other movies. I didn't necessarily understand why it was so acclaimed the first time I watched it, but I've watched it like a million times since then. I've just liked it more and more each time because there's a lot to unpack with The Shining. So I think the rewatches are definitely great with it, and I
Yeah,
love
no,
the ending.
I like thriller and horror movies. The Shining has so much to it that Kubrick kind of just threw in there. I mean, like the layout of the hotel doesn't make sense, like
Yeah,
physically. He made some digs at Stephen King in the movie because he didn't like Stephen King that much. Like the mystery about why Jack is in the photograph at the end of the movie.
yeah,
Like so, it was all kinds of crazy shit like that, and I enjoy the movie a lot, but it's not one of my favorites, but I would. It's not in my bottom.
yeah. We'll get to it a little bit later, but okay. Austin, you're number 10.
Yeah, I think my number 10 is probably Eyes Wide Shut. I don't I don't like Eyes Wide Shut that
Oh
much.
my
I'm sorry.
God. Oh my fucking God.
I'll have
No
comments on this
way,
really
brother.
soon.
No way,
I
brother.
I I I which is weird. I mean, it was just it was hard for me to get into, and this is talking about Kubrick, who makes lots of movies that are hard to get into, and the rest of them I enjoyed immensely, but I don't know. I there's something I and I like the history of the movie. I mean, him using Tom Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's like marital issues that they had in real life and playing them up on
Yeah,
sets to make
so
it like
Kubrick.
so you can feel the tension even more
Dude.
on set of the movie
Oh,
is really good. But
yeah.
I don't know. And it's not even saying that like I really don't like the movie. It's not my favorite. It
It's not
is my number
memorable.
10.
It doesn't stick out, is what you're saying, I guess.
It's just not even that because I think it is a memorable movie, and I really can like get behind it. It's my number 10 of these Kubrick movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm sure we're all going to defend like every single ranking in the top 10 here for Kubrick movies. They're still great movies. So, yeah, that's fair. I'm also saying this because it's my 9. So, yeah, Eyes Wide Shut is my 9. That's a good
Oh,
segue there.
oh my God.
I like Eyes Wide Shut. I do like Eyes
Oh
Wide
my
Shut,
God.
but
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I just can't I
Whatever,
can't
brother.
justify it
Whatever.
above the other ones. Um,
Oh, yeah. You're
like
really gonna hate where I put some other ones.
okay. But like Austin was saying, it's Kubrick's most dense movie. It's his most enigmatic movie. And not that that's a bad thing, but I think it just gets a little too convoluted. And obviously, it screened after he died, and so he didn't really have full control all the way to the end. I mean, most people say that it pretty much was left untouched from his vision, but I mean, we'll never really know because it did premiere posthumously for him. And so I think that's kind of felt a little bit. it kind of does feel a little unfinished. Um, but still, it's a really bizarre dreamscape of a movie. And I like it, even though if I do think the story is a little weak, I still really like it. And I also want to echo Austin's point of Kidman and Cruz are really perfect for the two characters that they play there. And it is one of my favorite Kubrick endings because like Kubrick endings are they're either I mean a lot of them are like really abrupt, but this one kind of is the funniest while being really abrupt, where Nicole Kidman is just like, let's fuck. And that's it. And that's how Kubrick ended his filmography.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Fucking goated.
Definitely Kubrickian, but yeah, I mean, I think it just gets a little too convoluted without really doing too much with it. It's also an Epstein expose, I suppose, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, that's Eyes Wide Shut's my number 9. Well,
Yeah.
Nick,
What?
what's your number 9?
Oh, I had Full Metal Jacket as my number 9.
okay.
And it just I don't know. Like I was saying earlier, it just if to me it fell flat. Like it was all right. I just didn't compared to his other like war genre movies, I didn't feel like it had that same effect that those other ones had. It still felt very Kubrick from him, but it just yeah, I don't know. Just the characters, it's not as memorable to me as the other ones. Other than that one scene where he gets chewed out for wearing a peace symbol and Born to Kill on his helmet. That's probably the only scene I physically remember from that movie, which is saying a lot because I can probably talk about any of these other movies and remember nearly all of it.
Um, Number 9. I think it's gonna be Lolita for me. Number 9.
Okay. Yeah, that works. That works for me. It's my number 8.
Yeah, same. Kurt, same.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right,
Okay,
let's talk
okay.
about Lolita then.
Brother. Who you can start, bro.
Oh yeah, Austin, any points
Yeah, Austin.
before we get into it?
I know you loved watching that movie.
I I it was now, I mean, I think it's really cool that he made a movie from the viewpoint of a person of a pedophile essentially. And that's a pretty brave thing to do, especially when this movie came out in like the 60s, right?
62?
The 60s?
Yeah, 62.
62, dude. Yeah.
Doing that in 1962 is very brave. And I don't even think that he necessarily like defended the pedophile or anything throughout the movie.
No.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, so he kind of just showed him to be like he showed him to be just like this is just a guy, this is what he struggles with, and I think that's very commendable to do. It's something that you see later on, like in movies today will do that with a person who's considered like undesirable, right? Like, I mean, even like the Joker, right? When Joker came out a couple of years ago, he's a crazy murderer, but it shows you this is what he goes through. This is to try to humanize him. Um, so I appreciate the movie for that reason, but I don't know. It kind of it. I didn't. It's kind of for the same reason why I didn't really like Eyes Wide Shut. It's a movie about the interpersonal connection between two people, and I don't think that most of the Kubrick movies that do that are particularly engaging for me.
Sure. Yeah, Lolita's my number 8. And like you said, I think the strength of it is that it humanizes a deplorable type of character. But I mean, it's the writing is just so good. He's just written as a normal guy because I mean, like yeah, he would be a normal guy, and just telling the story of this person in a very empathetic and sympathetic way. It's very subversive for that, but I mean, what do you expect from Kubrick? Other than that, though, it's definitely his most un-Kubrick film. There's none of his pretty idiosyncratic techniques. You won't see like the perfect symmetrical framing or the zooming. Um, the sets are just pretty much normal sets. There's nothing crazy going on there. But it's really a movie that is centered around its source material, the novel that it's based off of. And I think it's a great adaptation of that. Sue Lyon, who plays Lolita, is phenomenal in the part. And she just has, as a 14-year-old actress, she has so much confidence and command of the screen and the characters. It's really palpable and it's scary almost. And I think this is Peter Sellers' best performance too, even more so than Doctor Strangelove for me, just because he has more range here and he's really sinister and creepy throughout. If there is a villain really of this movie, it's definitely Peter Sellers, and he weirded me out all the way through because if you want to see Humbert as like the deviant, perverse man, Sellers one ups him and just is like this weird guy who's willing to be a chameleon and trying to manipulate Lolita and exploit her in way worse ways than Humbert is. So, yeah, it's a very disturbing movie in that regard. But again, uh, it's all sourced from the source material, so it's not really fair on a Kubrick ranking to have it higher than his other movies. But it's still a good tender meditation on just how dangerous and infectious love could be.
I think I mean, I like the movie a lot. And I think the reason why I liked it is because I had such strong emotions about it. Like with the characters, like I just felt like this movie, the characters just got me so angry. And like there's only a few films that actually like make me physically angry, because I know watching movies are just I watch the movie to watch the movie and it's great. But Lolita, like some of these scenes and some of these characters' decisions and actions just made me want to shoot them. Like I wanted to kill them. And so I think it was
Why
good in
Humbert
that
does it.
way. I felt like like out of all of his movies, these characters made me have physical reactions that I was just like, holy crap. And I think that's what I liked about it a lot. But I do like movies that center around relationships and interpersonal connections between characters. I'm more, biased towards those type of movies.
There's a lot of
Yeah, why was
really
that in
dark
there?
Kubrick humor, even with the subject matter. Like I think the camp's name is Camp Climax.
Yes, Camp Climax. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. You
Yeah,
have to
when I
be
saw
kidding
that, I
me.
was like, brother.
Yeah, there were just scenes in there where I'm like, what the heck? But Lolita's character really made me angry. But I mean, we were talking about this off screen here about how, she was a young character or young in the movie, and so it's hard to blame her for her actions. But I also just felt like the things that she was doing and the things that she was saying were just so obnoxious in terms of like, come on, like you have to know what you're doing. Like this is crazy.
Oh,
Like
she does, but she
and
also
she's
doesn't
doing it on
have
purpose. Yeah.
she
Well,
doesn't have that impulse control.
I know. I don't know. It just got me angry. But maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I'll say like the characterization here of all of our three main characters, like Peter Sellers' character, James Mason's character, and Sue Lyon's character, they're all really rich. Um, yeah, and they just felt really real to me. I haven't seen a movie that had characters that felt really
Yeah.
realistic like this in a while, and I was shocked by that.
Hmm. But that basically summed up what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, number 7.
Austin's 8.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry, Austin's 8.
I think my number 8 is probably Spartacus.
Oh, ooh.
And I like Barry Lyndon a lot too.
Hmm.
We'll talk about it later. I don't think I liked how he did Spartacus because they're both like really long period pieces,
Mhm.
but I didn't like the pacing of Spartacus. I think it was
Okay, I can agree with that.
I think because Barry Lyndon was a lot more tight
Yeah.
and Spartacus was kind of all over the place. I mean I didn't really particularly like either of them a whole lot um compared to some of the other movies on the list, but I think I like Spartacus less. I'm gonna put that
Mm.
there. I mean it's tough for me. I gotta these movies are all really good, but
Okay. Yeah.
Spartacus is my eight.
Yeah. The
Well,
14-year-old boy with a full-grown beard.
yeah, we'll talk
30-year-old
about that.
man.
Um, yeah, that's another good segue because Spartacus is my number seven. And again,
Mm.
I really like Spartacus, and Nick and I were talking about this yesterday. I really like
I
Spartacus
love
as a movie,
Spartacus.
and I was surprised how much I like Spartacus because
Yeah.
like classic golden age Hollywood historical epics are not really they're not really intellectually stimulating movies, but I mean and it's against what Kubrick does, right? Like this is pretty much his only for hire job that he did for a movie, but I think he nails it.
Mm.
And I think it's the best example of the classic studio era epics. And the reason I really like it is because it dives into the politics of the time. And it's a really interesting point in history because it's when the Roman Republic falls and kind of starts turning into the dictatorship and empire. And it really dives into the politics behind the corrupt senators, behind all that, and the first triumvirate. So I really like those scenes. The lineup of actors is just phenomenal. You have Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier, um, and all the supporting cast members as well. They just deliver these performances with such like a Shakespearean bravado that it's just fun to watch. Really, every scene. Um, I don't think it's bloated at all. I think every scene is pretty essential to the plot, even though it is around a 3 hour runtime. And it's the only Kubrick movie that I describe as triumphant, even though the ending is, characteristically Kubrickian. It's really sad ending, but I mean, the movie in general, it's a classic, like kind of David and Goliath type story, and I really liked it, but I can't justify it above the six films that I have higher.
Mm. Yeah. Um, I agree with Austin. I feel like it was a little bit all over the place in terms of just the back and forth between the Senators and Spartacus. It did feel a little bit odd every once in a while. I'll agree that like all the scenes were important, but I kind of it was a little bit all over the place. This was also a great it felt very Kubrick in terms of the duality of like different like the duality of man, like just life, because it shows the life of the senators and just how disconnected they were, and then the life of basically just the normal citizen in Rome. I thought this might have been like the first time that we got to see that from him in terms of just showing the duality of man or of society, and I thought that was really good. Although it was a little odd, just him being it just was, yeah, 14-year-old boy, but he was so old. I was like, it was hard for me to get over that. I was like, what the heck? This is so odd. Um,
Yeah, you're talking about when he gets bought in the very beginning of the movie, like the opening scene.
yeah.
He gets purchased as a 14-year-old boy in the story, but
Yeah,
it's just
because
full
they're like,
blown
oh,
53-year-old
14-year-old
Kirk Douglas.
Spartacus.
Yeah,
Yeah, 14-year-old Spartacus. I'm looking around like, oh, where is he? But then they stop on the bearded man. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
it's him. Like I knew back in the day, 14-year-olds are basically adults, but goddamn. Anyway, that was just a funny thing for me,
it's just
but
telling you how alpha Spartacus is, dude.
yeah, I guess so.
He's a
But I
43-year-old
no,
man already.
I really love the senator scenes too. Those are so
So good.
fun to watch. Just the conniving, it just makes it reminded me of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene book. It was just like, ooh, it's like just scheming. Everything was scheming. And that's what I love, because it was when all the senator scenes were all about the how to one up each other, the scheming behind the scenes. And then they get to Spartacus, and basically all it is just, I want to be free.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
the simple life. And I loved the duality of that. And so I don't, yeah. So
Yeah, and then they talk about this in the movie. Spartacus is like, a slave isn't afraid to die
mm.
because he doesn't he doesn't fear death, because he doesn't really have anything to lose. Essentially, is his point. Um, but the senator and the Roman does, because they're afraid to lose their freedom and their quality of life. And he's like, that's why we'll win. And it's such a good scene because he says that to the pirate, and the pirate's like, you realize you're going to die, right? And he's like, no, we're not going to die because we're slaves and we don't have anything to lose, really. And it's such a good part of the movie. But yeah, it does talk about that duality a lot. It's a very fun watch for 3 hours, which is,
3.5.
yeah, it is almost 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. So I mean, yeah, it's a great Kubrick movie. But that was your number 7 too, Nick, or no?
No,
Okay, so
no, you're not gonna like my number 7.
what is it?
Clockwork Orange. I hated it. I hated it, dude. It was not good. It was not good.
Dude,
Oh
you're
man.
so wrong.
I'll say that I was just having such a tough time watching it because I don't know. Maybe it was just, I just thought that it was overly, I mean, I guess I just didn't get the point of it. Like, maybe I just missed it, but it was just overly sexualized, overly violent. Like, it was just not fun to watch. I finished it in one go. Like, I didn't pause the movie at all.
Mhm.
Like I never looked away. But I was almost having the same reaction as I can't remember the name of the character after he goes through the
Alex, yeah.
treatment. After he goes, like, basically the whole movie, I was like, ugh, like, oh God, like, what am I watching? And it came out at such an odd time too, because when did he make that movie?
71.
Yeah, and then it came after what was it?
2001.
Yeah, it came after 2000.
Crazy.
I was like, what the? How did he go and make 2001 and then make a Clockwork Orange and then do Barry Lyndon? I was like,
Because he's
what
Kubrick.
the fuck? It like came out of nowhere. Like just sandwich that movie in between those two is wild. And yeah, it just took me by surprise. And I guess I missed it. Maybe I just need to do a rewatch, but I mean, I had a tough time watching it. It was hard, but yeah, I'm trying to think of.
We'll get to my thoughts much later
Yeah,
on
I
Clockwork
know that
Orange.
I know this is probably a shit opinion because it's so low on the list for me, but like,
Well, I mean, a lot of that, like what you were talking about, like the hypersexualization and violence that you see throughout the movie, that is the point of the movie.
yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I understand that. It was just so hard for me to get behind it. I was like,
It's so, and I think why it works is because it's done so well in step with his really dark, sick sense of humor.
hmm.
Um, it really toes the line between being completely fantastical but also horrific. Um, I think that's just why tonally it works so well. But I'll get to my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the tone of the movie. I mean, like one of my favorite scenes of the movie is just like the three of them like walking down the street, and Alex has the cane and he just like hits both of them in the dick with the cane for no reason other than he can.
Yeah, because he's just impulsively insane. Yeah. Well.
Anyway, yeah, I know it's low on my list, but we'll circle our way back to it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can argue about it.
Yeah.
My number 7 is Full Metal Jacket. His other two war movies are much higher for me, but it was just the last one he already done it. He had already done it twice, and
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it adds anything new that he hasn't already said. So Yeah. All right. My number 6 is Paths of Glory. Again, I really like this movie. I would describe this movie as the best World War One movie. This and Lawrence of Arabia are the two best World War One movies, in my opinion. But I cannot rank it any higher, and it pains me.
Why?
Because the other 5 that I have above it, I just think are better Kubrick movies. But I mean, as far as what I do like about Paths of Glory, it's definitely his first masterpiece. And from Paths of Glory on, he just doesn't miss for the most part. This is the first time that we get examples of his tracking shots and his central framing with the low angle of a single character that we're going to see in pretty much every single one of his movies after this. It's devastating. It's probably one of his best written movies that he wrote himself. And I love the Hemingway tone of it because it's very like Lost Generation type sentiment where it's like everyone after the Great War just didn't know what to think of morality anymore. They didn't know what to think of mankind. They didn't know what to think of modernism and in the modern world. It covers morally obtuse politics of war. It just does it so well, and there's not an ounce of humor, which is pretty un-Kubrickian, but it's just as cynical as any other Kubrick movie. And that's why I think it's way better than the Full Metal Jacket. I love it, but it just doesn't have anything that is so over the top extraordinary to me that I just can't put it in my top 5. And I hate saying that, but I just can't. Somehow Austin got to the bottom corner now. But whatever. Paths of Glory number 6 for me.
Paths of Glory is Paths of Glory is probably my favorite Kubrick movie. It's the first time he really did all the Kubrickisms that you see a lot in the rest of his movies. I mean, like the tracking shots of them walking through the trench and stuff from Colonel Dax's point of view, and all the soldiers like saluting him. I remember a really memorable jump cut from the generals in like the mansion that they're operating out of at the beginning of the movie, and then they're talking about the anthill, and then it jumps to the point of view of the anthill, and it pans out, and you see the dichotomy between like the almost like opulence of what the generals are living in and working in to all the soldiers in the trenches. Like they're dead soldiers face down in the trenches and stuff, and they're constantly getting bombarded by artillery, and you can see just how miserable it is for them and how out of touch all the generals are. So it was like what you were talking about with Spartacus, with like the senators versus the slaves. It's the generals and the actual soldiers on the ground. How like disgusting of people that these generals are. I mean, I remember watching it and being like, man, I do not like this guy. I am physically like angry at these people.
Physically ill.
I love how cynical it is throughout the entirety of the movie. I mean, you're watching these 3 men desperately trying to do anything out of the fate that they've been like wrongly thrown into, and then they just get shot and killed.
Yeah.
That's such a good scene too.
Yeah, so good.
And I mean, one of them is literally like half unconscious and he's tied up to a stretcher, and they still like stand him up and shoot him. Man. And then the entire movie, man, you're watching, you're like, these people are awful, feel so bad. And you've been kind of viewing it from the soldiers' point of view, like the soldiers are the good people here. And then Kubrick does the scene at the very end where they're all cheering and making fun of the young German girl, and you're like, you know, maybe no one's a good person And then he ends it very beautifully with the soldiers singing along to the German girl's song. And you get, it's almost like a restoration of your faith in humanity, where you peel back all these layers of all like the hardship and the trauma that they've endured in the war. And you're like, okay, we're all still human. Well, at least the soldiers are, not this general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of his best endings in a filmography of amazing endings.
I know. I mean, that movie is just fantastic, and putting it at number 6 to me, I don't like it, but it's not. It's your list. It's not mine. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
what was your number 6, Nick?
My number 6, I put Spartacus number 6.
Okay.
I liked it. I just top 5. I mean, it was great. It was good. It's kind of all I gotta, as a number 6, I felt like it was in a good spot. But yeah, I don't know, not much more to say. Just kind of an easy throw in. Just threw it in number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, my number 6 is Barry Lyndon. I think it is a. I think it's the same reason why I didn't like Spartacus that much.
Too
I
long?
mean, it's not even that it's too long. I mean, maybe it is. I just don't. I don't like the historical epics that he did, and
Mm.
I like the characters a lot. I like. I mean, I like the story of someone who's might as well be a nobody, climbing his way up through the aristocracy of 18th century England, and then his fall at the very end. To just because the movie wasn't cynical enough, Kubrick had to drive that in at the very end, where he was like, and then he loses everything.
Yeah. I love the narrator in that movie so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I almost have it at number 6 for the same reason why you put Pass of Glory at number 6. I just the other 5 movies I like much more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Barry Lyndon is coming in a bit for me, but yeah, yeah. We'll get to it. I just think it's Kubrick's too good in that movie for it to be anywhere out of the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right, we're down to it. Let's go.
yeah,
You
top
got it.
5.
Finally.
My number 5 is Doctor Strangelove. And maybe I'm a little biased to this movie. It is, I can't remember if I saw 2001 or Doctor Strangelove first, but these were the 2 movies that I was pretty much shown on heavy rotation as a kid because my dad watched both of them in theaters when he was a kid. And so, yeah, I watched Doctor Strangelove in 2001 a lot as a kid. And even as a kid, I thought the jokes are really funny. They're so deadpan in this movie. It's absolutely absurd because they're literally talking about ending the world pretty much the whole movie, but it's all played as a farce, and it's genius for that. I think it's the best Cold War satire that we've ever seen. George C. Scott and Peter Sellers are both over the top in the best way possible. Um, and the set design of the war room obviously is iconic. It's been like said, people think that that's actually like what the war room looks like, or that there even is a war room because of that movie. It's great. It's pretty much the inverse of Paths of Glory tonally, but I think it's just as impactful because especially when you have the 2 juxtaposed to each other, it kind of gives you the illusion of like war is just such a emotionally uneven, unsettling topic that you can have something so dreary as Paths of Glory or something so farcical as Doctor Strangelove, and both of them are telling you the same message at the end. It kind of hits home the point of what is the point of war. And I think that that's really cool for his filmography that he has two movies that basically tell you the same message in two totally different approaches that way. Yeah, I love it, and I think it's hilarious. So I got Doctor Strangelove at 5.
My number I mean, I for me, I put Eyes Wide Shut as my number five. Uh yeah. I mean, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I just love how like you could just feel that they hate each other.
Yeah,
And I did like that. And it's Tom Cruise, and I do like her early or late 90s Tom Cruise. And but I also like the story, but I'm also a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. Like I was all up in that. I was all up in Alex Jones and Epstein's Island before Epstein got even arrested or anybody really knew about it. And so,
Lolita's your movie.
dude, okay. No. No, I hated Lily. No, but I think I just obviously I'm personally biased. So anytime there is uh an elite club that you're not allowed in, and the moment you find out about it that they're trying to kill you, I love that kind of stuff. But that's just my little conspiracy theory brain,
And
just like, oh, I love it.
there's so many scenes in Eyes Wide Shut where I'm like, what is going on? Because
Mm,
it's like individual character scenes where like Tom Cruise, like he walks into like the, what is it, a dress shop with like
yeah.
the old man, and he's like, I'm gonna sell you my daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Or
Oh.
like when he's talking to Alan Cumming, who plays like a hotel clerk, and he's just like, I may have
Oh.
seen that doctor. Like, there's so many weird characters. We're like, who's in on the conspiracy here?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that
And
aspect.
like Sidney Pollack, the director, literally inserts himself into the movie, kind of like as a fourth wall break in the end, where he's like talking to Tom Cruise's character. He's like, "Look,
Oh,
that hooker who OD'd, like blah 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 blah," and he just yeah, a lot of parts of that movie are like kind of meta and kind of really confusing. So yeah, I mean, I could see why you'd like it and put it so high.
yeah, and I love the ending because it feels like I feel like that happens now where it's like you don't look this way. You are wrong. What you're saying is not correct, but even though it is, I mean, yeah, we literally found out that it was happening, but I love that the ending to that movie. But
It's a really good one. I gotta watch it more.
yeah. Anyway, that was my number five. I think it just it edged out Spartacus. Austin.
It what Spartacus? It what?
I don't know.
All right.
Um, yeah, I think my number five is probably also Doctor Strangelove. And I it's the only one of Kubrick's movies that I think is funny, really, other than like maybe A Clockwork Orange.
It's the only one that's pretty much a straight up comedy, that's for sure. But
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't think it has any like meaning on the ranking. It's such a surreal it's so surreal for me to be watching a Kubrick movie and be like, that was really funny. And I laugh at it.
yeah, like dude, it's like not even necessarily a funny line, but Peter Sellers is just so good in the delivery where he's like he calls the Russian premier on the line. He's like, "Can you turn the music down?" He's like, "Oh, that's better." And he's like, "Oh, of course this would be a friendly call. Like, why would you think this isn't a friendly call, Dimitri?" Oh God, that movie's so funny
Yeah.
because it's all like all these mundane like conversations as the world is legit about to
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
sorry.
Number four.
I'm the number 4. Okay. For me, it's The Shining. And kind of like I said before, when I first watched The Shining, I mean, I was 11 when I first watched it, so of course I didn't get the more enigmatic parts of it. I was like, why do people think this is the scariest movie of all time? And I still don't think it's the scariest movie of all time, but I really like it because, like what we were saying before, it's just so mysterious and it's pretty dense when you figure out just all the layers to it and like just the madness that Kubrick went into making it. Um, it's kind of it's just as interesting as the movie, and it's all mood and atmosphere, especially with the opening where they're filming the drive up. I might be my favorite sequence of the movie because you got the Wendy Carlos score, and it's just the foreboding sense. And my favorite kind of fun fact about that is that I'm a huge fan of Wendy Carlos. My dad is a huge fan of Wendy Carlos, so we always would get into the music and the Kubrick movies. And that piece, like the Shining theme, is based off a Gregorian chant that was about the end of the world from like the 1300s, I think. And that is just so cool to have in a Kubrick movie. It's just really weird and unsettling, and that fits perfectly with the movie. I think Jack Nicholson is perfect. No one else could be that unhinged and it be really believable. And like, it doesn't necessarily feel over the top because every time you watch Jack Nicholson, you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna kill something. Like that's just Jack Nicholson. He's insane. Um, and yeah, it's well known that Stephen King doesn't like the adaptation and Kubrick doesn't like Stephen King. But I'm a huge fan of the novel too. It's one of my favorite books, and I think it's a great companion piece to the novel because yeah, it's different than the novel in a lot of ways, but the the icy approach I think works just as well with the material that Stephen King's approach works with it, and in the more incendiary way. Um, I love it, and it's got great use of zooms too. It's got one of Kubrick's best use of zooms, in my opinion. And I love the end where it just goes, batshit crazy, and you see the bear giving the dude a blowjob. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like that is one of the greatest Kubrick zooms ever. Just and all they do is just look at Wendy. Like, oh, I love that movie. And that's about all I got for it. One of my favorite Kubrick endings where he's in the picture. Yeah, that's my number four.
All right, Nick, you're number four.
I had put Doctor Strangelove.
Sweet.
Yeah, could have totally been interchangeable for 5, but yeah, not much to say about it. Just kind of that, it's there. Loved it.
All right. My number four is also The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that movie a lot. So
You want to get into like I don't know more of the backstory? I didn't really talk much about that, but like how Kubrick, like the design does make sense, that sort of stuff.
yeah. So people have, after the movie's been released, you watch it and there's a lot of weird things going on in the movie that aren't really talked about in the movie, but if you're paying really close attention, you'll find them. So like people have drawn maps of the hotel as shown in the movie, and Kubrick has the layout of the hotel not be physically possible, like in real life. So like the characters make some turns and they keep turning, and if you're looking at it on a map, you're like, oh wait, hold on, they would have intersected another hallway at this point. Stuff like that. Let me think what else. The bear. Oh my god.
I want that costume.
It's such a funny scene.
Yeah, and
Uh,
but it's like not totally inconsistent either. That's what's so
because
bizarre about it.
it's still kind of a shock because you're like,
Yeah,
what the hell is going on?
yeah.
Um,
And Wendy's reaction is spot on too. Like what?
uh, I love the Kubrick making the Wendy's actress do the shot like 100 times. That
Mhm.
And I've read like interviews about it. Because he's talked about like people give him shit about like making the actors do so many shots, and he's just like he almost has like this elitist view of where a director is and where the actors are, and he's like, dude, the actors are like children. You have to baby them and stuff, and I refuse to do it. So, and he's like, I wouldn't have to do 100 shots; they would just do it right the first time.
Yeah,
Um,
and it all works because all of them are going crazy, so it
um,
helps put the stress there.
What else did he? Oh yeah, he like horribly mistreated the actress to
Abuse.
really get like that scene of like that look of fear in her face. I've I, I don't remember exactly what she did. It's been a while since I've read about it, but they did some pretty bad things to her to like really fuck with her to because he's like, I want to see genuine emotion in your like scenes where you're supposed to be frightened.
Yeah, her hair was falling out during the production of the movie, and it's kind of been like a debated point on whether or not he actually mistreated her or not. But what isn't really debatable is that she was just incredibly stressed out during the entire filming of it. So yeah, Shelley Duvall has said that she respects Stanley Kubrick and everything in years to come, but um, yeah, I mean, it's very palpable that everyone on set was pretty stressed out making it. Yeah.
On to number three.
Yeah, my number three is Barry Lyndon. Um, it's one I didn't see for a while, obviously, because the runtime is pretty daunting, but I'm really glad that we watched it. And the first time we watched it, it was Nick and I actually. Uh,
So good.
yeah, it was a great viewing experience. And I mean, I shouldn't have doubted Kubrick, but I wasn't expecting me to like it as much as I did. And I think it's just because it's gorgeous to watch. It's Kubrick's best cinematography, and that's really saying something. But he just goes
Mhm.
full insanely detail oriented with how he shoots every single shot to look like a Rococo painting from the period.
Yeah,
Literally every single shot is a painting. And I think he kind of wants the audience to see the movie like that, which is, I mean, basically the whole movie is him doing the Kubrick zoom, whether it be a zoom in or a zoom out. Every single shot is a Kubrick zoom, and it highlights his perfect framing and just his perfect design for each shot that he has. And it's gorgeous to look at the whole time. And I think that's why I don't mind the 3 hour runtime. I think it could lose 30 minutes, but still, um, it's a joy to watch. And like, yeah, it's not like as visceral as his other movies, especially like Clockwork Orange. It's technically brilliant nonetheless. It's my favorite period piece that I've ever seen. Um, and his dedication to the production design, the costumes, and the lighting, it's really commendable and it's really impressive. And I think it's a funny movie in a lot of parts, and it's pretty badass too. The story is great. I didn't expect the period piece to be that badass, but it's cool. Like he rises to nothing, pretty much takes over the aristocracy, and then loses it all. So it's a cool movie.
yeah. Talking about the lighting, do you know the like the candlelight scenes in the movie? Kubrick
Yeah,
was
and
like, yeah, it has to be lit by actual candlelight and nothing else.
yeah, and he had lenses designed by NASA to encapsulate as much natural light as he could without using any set lights.
Yeah, those were only recently created, like invented when he made the movie. So because they were made to be able to take pictures of the dark side of the moon, pretty much.
And what would you expect from Kubrick? I mean, he's just such a technically brilliant director. So yeah, that's my number three.
Mhm. Yeah. I had Paths of Glory for number three for me. Um, but I have Barry Lyndon at number two. I just love Barry Lyndon. I just felt like it had everything. It was funny. It was sad. It felt like a complete story by the end. I'm such a sucker for the rise and fall of a character, and like it was such a perfect. It just fit everything in, and yeah. So, and I just loved the cinematography, and we already talked about it, but I just feel like he did his best in that movie.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, those are my 3 and 2. So, but they were just right next to each other.
Cool.
Awesome.
I think Clockwork's my number three. I like Clockwork Orange a lot. It's such a kind of it's showing kind of just like the depravity of people and what people can be like to each other, and then that crazy rehabilitations like plot that takes up the last part of the movie where it's almost like you have to do even worse to make them like sociable again.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, what's the morality here? Like like as a society, we're doing worse things to make them better people, and like that's why. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the whole point of the movie, and that's obviously what a lot of people missed at the time when it was released.
Really? I feel like that was such an important moment in the movie, was making that point.
Yeah, but people hated it when it came out, obviously,
Oh, I
because
thought no, what you just said is like people missed that point.
yeah, obviously, because
Yeah.
like
But I
if
just felt, I
that's the
mean, when I
point.
watched it, that was like that was the very poignant moment where I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's, I get, I understand the point of all of the violence, all the sex, like the questioning the morality was that, that scene in particular.
Yeah, I think when you get that point, you appreciate it because I mean I'll get into it later, but it's like the most Kubrickian movie out there in my opinion. And so when you get the point of the movie, how do you just not enjoy it, sit back and enjoy it? I guess just maybe because it is a little too much for people, but again,
Yeah.
it's a blast to watch. And I mean, we 50 years down the line have the hindsight to enjoy it, I guess, because at the time it's definitely a really shocking and controversial movie. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it just needs some dwell time.
I mean, it's a shocking movie to watch today, much less in 1972.
Yeah,
So
I
I
would,
can see it. It could very easily just have been like the gratuitousness of the movie just turned people off in the 70s.
yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, my dad is a Kubrick fan, as I mentioned before. He does not like A Clockwork Orange. He doesn't really talk about it, and I guess that's probably why.
All right.
I
Number
guess
two.
I'll keep talking about it because it's my number two.
Uh,
But in it was this was the hardest ranking for me between two and one, and then process of elimination. You could guess what one is, but in my heart, this is my favorite Kubrick movie, 100%. And kind of like what I said before, because it's so Kubrickian and it is so over the top and it's so meticulous in its detail and his style. Um, I just get washed over by it, and I love watching it every single time. It never gets old for me. I think it's his most disturbing film, easily. Like The Shining is, the genre horror movie that he did, but this is way scarier than The Shining. When you think about like the implications of like what society is doing to this man and his reaction to it, and like Alex really isn't the bad guy; he's the victim the whole time. He is. He's literally he's a product of the society, and the society kind of makes him worse. And then it makes the
Yeah.
ending even funnier because he's like, "I've been cured," because he's finally back to his normal self.
Yeah.
It's just so warped and twisted. Um, and yeah, this is his first like heavy usage of the symmetrical framing of the shots and his Kubrick zooms. Absolutely bizarre, zany, deranged, just like our main character. And we feel just as kind of we feel like we're going crazy watching this movie, and it kind of immerses you into the world that the society is based on. And so you can kind of sympathize with Alex in that way. You're like, oh, this is absolutely insane world. Like, I get it. Um, and the score for me, it's my favorite Kubrick score. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what pushes it over the edge for me because Wendy Carlos is just the synthetic, eerie Moog renditions of classical music is an absolutely brilliant take because it's like a dystopian, warped version of very highly regarded, very what would you call it? Like classical music is seen as like proper high society music, and then this kind of warps it. And it's like, what sort of dystopian future is this?
Mhm.
And why does Alex like the purity of something that is seen as too good for him in regards to like why is he like Beethoven?
Oh yeah.
I think that that's really interesting, and um, I'm just always entranced by the score of this movie and the juxtaposition of the. It's one of Beethoven's pieces when the Nazi march is happening. That whole montage sequence of the Nazis with the classical music redone by Wendy Carlos is really weird, and I love it. Um, yeah, it gives the movie a really dark and detached feel. Uh, yeah, and I just think it's pretty much his best example. Well, it's not his best example, but it's a really good example of just him providing you a unique experience in a film.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that's what I got for Clockwork. I love this movie to death.
All right, Nick. You said your number two was Paths of Glory.
No, I had Barry Lyndon as my number two, but
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, we already talked about that on that.
All right, my number two,
Mm-hmm.
2001.
Great.
Damn.
It's still two.
You have Clockwork.
I almost had it too.
You have Clockwork as your number one.
Clockwork's my number three.
Oh, what's your
So,
number one?
well,
No.
We'll get to it when we
we'll
get
save
to
it.
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What's your number
I thought
two?
we went through them all already. Okay.
All right. Do we want to talk about 2001 now, or do we just want to
I
talk
mean,
about
Kurt,
it with you guys?
you
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
are
just talk about your
ours
points for it.
first. Our yeah, Kurt, your number one's 2001, right?
Yeah, we'll all get
Yeah.
into it then.
It's the same for my too. It's my number one, so
I I love 2001. I think it's a fantastic movie. My number one is my favorite Kubrick movie. That's why I put it there. But I 2001 is such a like the sound design of it, like with them in space where they're going from like even at the very beginning, like right when the monkey throws the bone up in the air, and then the score like it just immediately cuts out, and it's the shot of the ship like floating in orbit and stuff. And him talking to Hal. I mean, Hal. There's so many so good things about this movie. Like, and I feel bad that I put it at number two.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't, but we'll get into it real soon.
mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you guys have it as number one, right? You guys want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about it a little bit. I'm a book reader. I prefer books more than movies most of the time. I'll say this movie is tough though. Like honestly, the movie and the book are pretty much like just like they're both so good and they're kind of on the same level. One scene in particular that I love talking about between the two books is when he is going towards the obelisk next to Jupiter, or basically he goes into it, and it's him like traveling through space and time, and it's just kind of like that concept. In the book and the movie, basically, like it's incredible how well Kubrick actually portrays what the book is trying to like is describing. It almost was like one to one. Like when I read the book and I had that scene in my head was literally the exact same as what I was watching when I watched the movie. And I just thought that was incredible because most of the time movies can't do that. They can't, because everybody interprets, this scene in their head when they're reading a book differently. But I just felt like that he just did such a good job at doing that. That scene in particular just really stands out for me. As well as when they're first going up to the obelisk on the moon. I mean, talk about a an amazing scene that both the book and the movie do so well. I I go back and watch that scene on YouTube a lot. Like I just rewatch it because it's so cool to watch. But and I love the feeling that I get from this movie when I watch it. I think that's probably its greatest strength for me is it puts me in such an interesting space feeling wise. Uh, just the grandiosity of it. I love it. I love everything about that. And because that's what space is, right? Like the grandiosity of space, you know? Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about it.
Yeah, 2001 is also my number one. And again, normie take, but
Same.
I mean,
Same.
it's that way for a reason, right?
Yeah.
There's just no movie in cinema history that's as grandiose and magnificent than this movie. And I've seen it so many times. Even as a kid, I was floored by it. And I can only imagine how my dad felt when he was 15 watching this movie in theaters in
That's so
1968.
that's so cool.
That blows me away. And
Yeah.
apparently, the fun story about that, my dad watched it with my grandpa. And my grandpa is an old war dog. And at the time, he was a year away from retirement. Um, he's an old guy in his mid 50s. And he drove my dad home and had nothing to say. He was just absolutely dead silent. Because what are you going to do when you watch a movie like that? Like, as a 50-year-old man watching that in 1968, like, it literally left him speechless. And yeah, I think that that's most people's reaction after they watch this movie for the first time. Because what is there to say? It's literally the movie that transcends cinema. It does so more than any other movie I've ever seen. Uh, the fact that this is before Apollo 11 is crazy.
Yeah.
uh, the fact that the practical effects are so good that they hold up to this day, especially when you're watching Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, that sequence where they go through the wormhole past the
Oh, that's
mountain,
what's
past Jupiter.
Yep.
I never I've never watched a sequence more frequently ever than that one. I always go and watch Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite over and over. It's like a 23-minute long sequence.
Yeah.
I will never get tired of it. I think it's the most spectacular thing ever put to film. And that in the Dawn of Man sequence too. I love the Dawn of Man sequence. And also the small scene where they find the monolith on Tycho, like you were saying before. All those scenes are just so awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, the when the ape throws the bone and it match cuts to the was it
to like the
space station?
spaceship.
Yeah, the space
Yeah.
station.
Mhm.
Greatest match cut in history, and like in one
Even just
cut.
like the attention to detail that he gave it, like when he had when they're on the space station, and it's like he makes it look like a commercial airliner,
Yeah, it's Pan
but
Am.
but the but the what it, like the space attendant, I guess, is like walking around with Velcro shoes so she
Yeah.
doesn't float away. I mean,
That's kind of smart for, you know, before Apollo 11. Definitely
The
that's
movie in general is austere and magnificent, just like space itself. It personifies space. It personifies the glory of humankind reaching out and just going into the unknown. And it's the greatest ending in movie history, in my opinion. The
Mm.
greatest beginning and the greatest ending because it's just a story of mankind. I love
and
it.
even like when he's with Hal, like when he kills Hal at the end, and Hal had been like a monster throughout the movie. Like he killed the other astronaut. That's also a great scene too when he flings the other astronaut like out into space.
Scary,
And
scares the
then
shit out of me because it's
yeah,
just dead silent.
it's
Ugh.
completely silent, and you just see him float away, and you just watch him get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it just cuts away.
Yeah.
Um, and then he's gonna go kill Hal, and then Hal can't do anything about it. Hal's just in there like begging with him essentially, and the astro and it's such a sad, such a like, even though Hal had like already killed one person, you're like, this is so sad to watch because he's begging for his life, and there's like nothing he can do about it.
Mm.
My number one is Paths of Glory. It's my favorite Kubrick movie. I love how cynical it is, but straight up just um, I don't know. I mean, I love the movie. I mean, I love the dichotomy between the generals and the soldiers. I love seeing Kirk Douglas go off on the general at the end. I He's like, no, I didn't do this because I wanted General Monet's job. I did it because I care about the three soldiers that you killed for no reason. Uh, the song at the end is beautiful. It's Kubrick's daughter, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's his wife, Christine. But yeah, it's so impactful.
Kind of like what I was talking about with Hal in 2001, where with Hal at the very end, where he's like begging for his life not to die. You get to watch these three soldiers go through all the stages of grief, essentially, before they're executed. Uh, yeah, I know. It kind of speaks to me in a way that none of the other ones did. That's why I put it up so high, because it's so emotionally charged for me. So I mean, I love that movie. I bought it for like $5 because it was on sale.
Nice.
Mm.
Well, shall we get into it?
All right, this is where the fun begins.
Yeah. Here we go. All right, boys. Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. We want to do this on a Kubrick curve, because otherwise all these movies are going to be S or A tier pretty much. But if we do a Kubrick curve, we can actually spread them out a little bit on this tier list. Fear and Desire, what are we thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking F.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
That's easy.
It's his weakest.
Yeah, definitely his worst movie.
Yeah.
I'd agree. F. I'd say the same for Killer's Kiss too, honestly.
I agree.
All right, The Killing.
I like The Killing, man. I thought it was great. Like, even though it's part of like those, the first three, it's not S tier, obviously, but
I know
I
it's weird because it's the
think
only
it's S
one.
tier.
It's the only one that of this kind that Kubrick made because it's kind of like a neo
Noir.
noir, like
Yeah.
detective movie almost.
Yeah. I think I just love the ending so much. It's so hard. Like, I want to put B, but it's probably more C, honestly.
I'm feeling for Kubrick, it's a D, but I'm okay with C for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think C or D is fine.
Put it in D, and then maybe might revisit that one. But
Okay. Paths of Glory.
I think it's A tier.
Yeah, I think it's very, very easily A.
Yeah.
I'll
For S though,
I can't in good faith put it in S tier for me.
no, yeah. Well, don't put it in B.
Yeah,
I'm
I
kind
do
of
too. I
feeling
think
it.
it's
Up, up,
no, it's an A tier movie.
up, up.
I'll put it in A for now.
Bro, you literally said it. It's like literally one of the best World War One movies ever.
Yeah, I do think it is like the best World War One movie, but like on the
Stand by it.
on the
Stand by it,
Kubrick
brother.
curve, dude, on the
Ah.
Kubrick curve, I don't know.
I mean, like think about the ending of the movie. Think
Mm.
about like just like how he brings it together with the themes of the movie. I mean, I think it's one of the best movies in this entire filmography, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely agree with an A tier ranking for it. All right, Spartacus.
I
Ugh,
think like B or C.
dude.
I know you guys liked it a lot more than I did,
Tier.
but I,
I do
Um,
like it a lot, but I agree that it's definitely not as good a movie as Pass of Glory. Um, but it is better than The Killing. I'm feeling a B or a C for it. Nick?
I want to put it in B so bad, but when we've got the rest of the lineup, it's probably more of a C tier.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that.
unfortunately. It's great though. Fuck, I love Spartacus.
Epstein.
F,
Where are we
get
putting
that shit out of here. No, I'm just kidding.
it?
I know. I mean, I didn't like it, but I think it's a C tier movie. But whatever.
I put
You
it
guys
in
should
B.
I think you need to use your inside voice a little bit more, Nick.
I put it in B. I think it just the
Mm.
characters are so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
I
make
mean,
it.
I personally didn't like the movie super much, but I think it's a really good movie. I can
Better
put it
than
to B.
Spartacus, though. Oh,
I it probably is a better movie than Spartacus.
really?
Yeah, I mean, just think of how unique it is and how well done it is compared to a movie like Spartacus. Like I think Spartacus is like the best example of like a historical epic, but Lolita is just richer characters.
I can understand it. Okay. All right. Let it be. Let it be.
Doctor Strangelove.
Whew. That's like a borderline.
A or B for me, for
Yeah, I'm
Kubrick.
feeling A or B. That
I
movie
like
is
it in
so
A.
funny. It's
It
I
so
is
like it.
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
I like it in A.
Nick?
No, yeah, I like it in A. It was so funny. And I love the humor. Like I just love how funny it is, but it's such a heavy topic, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And that pushes it into A.
I'm
Otherwise it would
cool.
have been a B.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
What's next? S
All right.
tier. I
Yeah.
mean,
Easy, no debate.
that's easy. Yeah, like what the fuck?
Yeah, that's no debate. Clockwork.
I'm not even gonna talk because I know exactly what you're gonna do.
I,
Whatever.
I like it. I like it in A. I don't like it in
It's
S, but I like
not
it in
S
A.
tier. It is not S tier.
It's pretty S tier. It's pretty S tier,
Uh,
dude.
I just can't get behind that. Just because it's like shocking and violent and just so out there, I don't think that makes it S tier.
I don't think that's what makes it S tier either. I just think it's like the perfect synthesis of everything Kubrick.
Ah, I do what you
Austin?
will, but do what you will.
I,
It's two against one here.
Yeah, Austin,
I
what
don't
are
think
your
it's S tier. I think it's A tier, man.
I like it better in A. I mean, we can also come back through, and once we have a good idea of where they should be, we can kind of move them around.
okay.
Because it should, I mean, because this should look like a bell curve. So we can't have too many in A. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to move the stuff around again.
Agreed. Barry Lyndon.
I
For
want to
me,
put
it's a strong A.
yeah, I want it in A so bad, but I feel like maybe it should be a B. I don't know.
This is a strong A for me. I don't know if
We
I'm
should
gonna
have
put
put
it
all
anywhere
of them
else
in
for me.
A.
Austin.
Hmm.
We're gonna,
We're just gonna be stuck with a bunch of A.
yeah, we need to come back and
That's the problem. We're
redefine the
definitely
Kubrick
gonna have to
curve
come back
again.
through this.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have to move some stuff around again.
We'll have
But
to,
yeah,
yeah.
because I
Where in
mean,
a
I don't know, man. I love Barry Lyndon. I think it's such a good. I do. I think it's a really good movie.
where in A do you think you want it? Because I know where I want it. I want it before Clockwork, but after Pabs.
I want it.
I want it before Pabs, after Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel it like between Doctor Strangelove and Pass of Glory.
Yeah, I agree.
Shining. I hate to say it, it's A for me.
I, no, no. I think it's. Oh God, man, it's such a.
I don't know. You know me. I would say it's a B tier movie, but because
Yeah,
remember, this is like a Stanley curve. It's
That's
not
what I'm saying.
necessarily
Yeah,
like,
we
oh, it's
do
a
need to
B tier.
fix
we
we
Yeah,
need
do
to
need to
fix
fix A,
this.
but
we'll fix it.
I don't know. Let's see what it looks like with the other two on.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw it into A, I guess.
right, Full Metal Jacket, dude. For me, it's like C Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a C.
Yeah, and Eyes Wide Shut. I'm feeling like B to C.
I want to put it in B.
I think it'd be okay in B.
All right, what do we want to move here then?
I think we only need to drop one down from A, and
Yeah.
it'll look pretty good.
Yeah. Um, Shining or Strange Love?
I would be willing to put Doctor Strangelove in a B. I know, Austin. I saw that face you just made,
This
and
is a tough call for me. It's my 4 and 5.
yeah. Um.
I mean, fuck. I'm thinking about it because maybe Pass should go down to B.
No. No way.
And I love
No
Pass.
way.
Well, because
No
I'm
way.
like looking at it in comparison to all the other ones there, and they're Pass of Glory has a huge sentimental, like it's like a super sentimental, like it's all about like the feeling you watch when you're watching a movie, right? But a lot of the like, I don't think Shining should go down. I think Shining should be an A. I think Clockwork should be an A. So it's between Paths, Strange Love, and Barry Lyndon for me. Just the satire of Strange Love, the just how funny it is, how different it is from every Kubrick movie, and it still works as well as it does.
I agree with Pass and B. Like Pass is a great movie and all, but I just don't think it compares really to Linden and The Shining.
And yeah, like Barry Lyndon is the historical piece when he did it super well. Like much, I think he did a much better Barry Lyndon than he did Spartacus.
Yes,
Like
agree.
the amount of detail they put into the movie, and you can see it when you're watching the movie, how much detail they put into it. And I
Do what
Paths is
you
my
will.
favorite
Do
movie,
what you
but I think
must.
it should be in B.
Put it at the top of B though, like first.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
At
That's
least do
fair.
that. Yeah.
Um, one more push for Clockwork and S.
Nah, dude. Nah.
Okay, I could keep it in A because I get it. Like it is my favorite, but it is. I mean, 2001 transcends all. So
I mean, it's in a completely different tier than all the other
yeah, it
movies.
does
Like,
transcend all of them.
Yeah.
All right, how we like this?
I totally pointless. But Killer's Kiss is better than Fear and Desire. Just it's like
Oh yeah. That
so
is.
utterly pointless.
It's
But
true. That's true.
I had to say something. I had to say something.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I don't know. What do we think about The Shining being behind Doctor Strangelove, though? I don't know.
I would put it above Doctor Strangelove,
I feel,
but before Barry Lyndon.
yeah, I feel like I could get down for that. I could, yeah,
Austin.
yeah, I can agree to that.
yeah.
This looks pretty good to me.
I'm so upset about having to put Pass of Glory in B tier, but
I know it's so
I
That
great.
makes
I
me
think
upset too.
but I think it's the right call. Like honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, compared to Lolita and Eyes Wide Shut,
yeah. But I just like I
I
wish
feel
I
like
could
it's
make
so
like
much
a
better
B
than that.
plus tier. I wish I could make like a B plus tier or something.
Yeah, it just feels like those two movies compared. I just feel like Pass of Glory is so much better than those.
They are. We
Oh,
just, I
yeah.
mean, we could just say fuck it and put it back in A tier and just leave it as it is because that's how I feel about this movie.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm fine with that. I do think it is a tier better than Lolita and Eyes Wide Shut for sure.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I think we're settled.
There it is.
And I would put it in front of Barry, but
What'd you say?
I would put Paths of Glory in front of Barry Lyndon, like between Clockwork and Barry Lyndon. I like it that much. I don't
It,
know what you guys. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Barry Lyndon is just so good. Yeah.
I'm debating whether or not it's better than Doctor Strangelove. Hmm. I don't know. I could put it in front of Doctor Strangelove, but it's also fine where it is.
All right. I think that settles it then.
Yeah, that was kind of easy. Yeah, there was a lot less friction there. But then
Yeah, I
again,
mean, I guess we kind of already talked about all of them. So
yeah. And I'm not gonna fight about A Clockwork Orange, so whatever.
hi, 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 my little droogies.
Yeah, look, there were funny things about it, but yeah, I don't know. I feel I'm in your dad's camp. I'm disgusted. I'm grossed out. I'm done.
Uh,
I'll say this. When he goes back to the house with the old dude and he's in the wheelchair and the old guy has like an absolute mental fucking breakdown. That was a great scene.
yes.
Solely because
Food
it's like,
good?
yeah, yeah, he makes him drink the wine and then like his face falls into the spaghetti. Yeah, that's okay. That part was great. And I did feel bad for Alex at the end. I was like, oh no, like especially that his friends became police officers, like brother.
Yep.
And Kira.
Maybe I just need to talk about the movie more. Maybe I do like it.
That's the thing of Kubrick movies. It's like when you talk about any given one, they are the
Yeah.
best movie you've ever seen in that moment.
Yeah.
Cool.
But hey, sorry. Just had to bring that up.
That about wraps it.
Mm.
This was a good week. This is a good topic. Thanks
Yeah,
for
that was
joining me,
fun.
guys.
That was fun.
All right. And I'll see you next week, guys.